The gentleman is recognized to speak on his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment is a sense of Congress that any final reconciliation package should not include the following: a repeal of the cap on state and local tax deductions, a repeal of the stepped up basis, or new IRS reporting requirements. And I must say, with respect to our Ways and Means markup, I'm encouraged by the fact that those provisions are not in this legislative text. And while I would also reiterate that Ways and Means is the jurisdiction for tax policy, should be protected as such. And I urge my colleagues to support this amendment to convey that the same sentiment that this is good tax policy for all Americans after all the considerations have been made, and that any changes are rightfully in the jurisdiction of Ways and Means. So that's my amendment, Mr. Chairman. I think so many of the points have already been made, and I don't want to belabor this on the SALT deduction. And I respect my friend, Mr. Swazi, and I appreciate his strong views on this. But he mentioned laboratories of democracy, and I think the founders did, in their brilliance and favor from God, come up with a pretty awesome system of federalism where there was delegated authority to states to chart their course in many respects. And I think that that in some ways, these laboratories of democracies at the state level are the only functioning and rational democracies left in America. And what I mean by that is, we at the federal government have little to no considerations for the policies that we pass, the programs that we create. And this entire tax and spend bill is just one example in many. We won't pay for this, and we will load hundreds of billions of dollars every year in addition to the $1 trillion every year of deficit spending, because we won't offset it. We won't offset it with revenue. We won't offset it with spending cuts. But at the local and state level, they have to make those trade-offs. They have to decide if what they pass is a need or a want, if it's good for just a special interest group or just one segment of their society, or if it's a public good. That's healthy. That is a healthy democracy. I wish we had that dynamic at the federal level. Every state does, every local district does, every business, every family. So I think that my colleagues' arguments are good ones, but I would say they make the point that, and I'll quote somebody who wrote a very good op-ed on this issue. He said, defenders of these policies, talking about SALT deductions, need to face the basic question: if big government is so good, why aren't people willing to pay for it? Those considerations and those trade-offs are extremely healthy for a functioning democracy. And of course, the other piece is the stepped up basis. Mr. Chairman, I've said repeatedly, if that were ever repealed upon transfer of family farms or small businesses of any kind, where folks have worked hard, saved, invested, and paid taxes, by the way, at every level of government, and then would have to pay the total unrealized gain at transfer upon death to their children, untenable, un-American. And I hope that that's not snuck back in here somewhere down the line. And that's why we would want to memorialize this sense of Congress and keeping that repeal the stepped up basis out of this legislation down the road. And then the IRS reporting requirement, it's very simply overreaching. I think it's probably unconstitutional, but it certainly has major privacy concerns for all of us. And then you've got the many layers of reporting that community banks have to do, from HMDA data to Sarbanes-Oxley to Bank Secrecy Act to Patriot Act. So I think this is, I hope that, and urge my colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you, and I yield back.